Good morning, YouTube. How you guys doing today? Kevin here, coming back at you with the KE102 engine build. I had to swap some heads around on my other KE100 because I wanted to rob that high compression head for this bike right here, this build. So I want to talk a little bit more about what I did here. So I increased the diameter of the piston, okay, the cylinder. And what that does is it gives me more volume on the top of the piston. It also, at the bottom of the piston, see the piston, when the piston travels upward, hold on one second, let me go grab my piston. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this. This is important because a lot of people don't know this. They think that it's just for the top of the piston. They don't understand what happens underneath the piston. So, okay, so here we go. We have our piston right here. It's at the top of the cylinder, okay? On a 4-stroke engine, the top of the piston sucks in the fuel. Now, if you increase the size of it, it sucks in more volume of air and fuel as the intake valve opens, and then compresses it into a tighter combustion chamber, or into a tight combustion chamber, and then detonates it. On a 2-stroke, we don't have valves. We have transfer ports that carry fuel and air mix from the intake into the bottom side of the piston cavity, and then compress it when the piston moves down. When the piston moves down, then the fuel and air charge go up these transfer ports and into the ports and on top of the piston, and that's how the fuel gets there. Now, when you increase the diameter of the piston, you make it bigger, or you put a bigger one in, now you have more volume down here underneath the piston for suction. So now you can suck in a bigger air charge, okay? So you're sucking in more fuel and air. Then when the piston travels down, okay, when the piston travels down, now you're compressing it, well, not compression, but compressing the fuel and air and pushing it up these transfer ports that are in here on top of the piston. It pushes it right on top. So that's the idea behind putting a bigger piston in, is to get more volume. Okay, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for volume. We're looking for as much air and fuel charge into the intake and on top of the piston crown that we can get. Then we're going to compress it and fire it, and that's how we're going to get the maximum amount of power out of this motor. So, with that said, I hope that helps you in understanding why it's important when you build a performance motor to do that. Because although it's not that much, it does make a difference in the power output. See, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well, you're not going to gain that much power by putting a bigger piston in. Well, no, you're not going to gain a whole ton of power, but when you collaborate the biggest cylinder, the expansion chamber on the exhaust, a different carburetor, okay, yeah, it all adds up together and gives you more power. So basically right now when the piston travels down, okay, it's essentially pushing the air and fuel charge. If I can get this out a little easy here, I get stuff right in the way. Remove this heater my brother gave me. So, as the piston travels down, alright, you can see the exhaust port right there. It's already opened. Okay, now the exhaust is going out. At the same time, right there, the intake, as this piston's going down, it's pushing. Okay, it's pushing the fuel and air on the sides, and the fuel and air is now being pushed into the combustion chamber right now. So as you can see, there's some going out the exhaust because the exhaust is also opened. So by putting the expansion chamber, we're kind of pushing that back in and holding it, if you will. Okay, now the engine is compressing the fuel and air right now. Now it's on compression stroke. So let's see if I can get right there. When that port, the exhaust port, that top ring plugs that top of that hole, now you start your compression stroke. So right at that point, you can see how much volume I have right now. Okay, that's all my volume right there. That right there is going to be, for this diameter right here, which is down to about that on my finger, okay, and all that space, that is as much fuel and air charge as I can put into this engine. I'm going to take that whole volume and I'm going to compress it into the cylinder head. So, let me talk to you about that. The cylinder head, this is the combustion chamber in the center here, okay? And you're taking that whole entire volume of fuel and air mix right there, all that space, and you're going to compress it into that chamber, okay? And that is your compression ratio. What we're going to do is, we like the idea of that whole volume, but on this high performance engine I'm building, I'm going to compress it not to the KE100 head, but to the 100 head. See the difference in the chambers? The one on the right is an open chamber. The one on the left is a closed chamber. So that's what we're going to do. Now, what is the point of that? Why is that important, you ask? It's important because the tighter the combustion chamber, the more efficient the burn. Okay, the more efficient the burn, the more power output going out your tailpipe, the more power you're going to get out of that rear sprocket. It's just going to be a lot more horsepower and torque is what we're going for. Now, if you're going to use a turbocharger, just say for all intents and purposes, you're going to use a turbocharger. If you put a closed chamber head on your motor, you're going to blow it up. So you're going to want the open chamber, because now you're forcing extra air into the engine. But we're not doing that. So we're not going to be running a turbo. We're going to be running premium fuel. So I wanted to show you guys that. That was I forgot to put that in my last video. Of course, the last video was really long too. So right now we're going to install that new, well, not new, but that used high compression cylinder head onto this new motor. So I wanted to just go over that. I ordered the clutch. There's going to be a clutch coming for this. I got a Barnett clutch with plates and springs. The whole shooting match. Just want to make sure everything's nice and clean. Don't want no debris. Always take pride in your work, guys. Pride in your work. This is a machine, and this is going to be a very efficient, effective machine. Now, I also want to talk to you guys. A lot of times, now, I bored this thing out. Okay, it's now a 102 cubic cc's, cubic centimeters. Now, some of the people ask, what is the difference between this and a KX100? All right, so let's talk about the KE compared to the KX. Well, they have two different things. They have a different piston. It's bigger piston, and they have a shorter stroke. Okay. So let me explain to you what the difference between that and this is. This has a smaller cylinder and a longer stroke. A longer stroke gives you more torque. Okay. The longer the stroke, the less RPM you get out of it. So with a short stroke and a really wide piston, you're going to get the same cc's, the same volume, but it's going to be a lot quicker. That crank is going to turn a lot faster, and it's going to torque up a lot quicker. So that's where it makes its power, with a fatter piston and a shorter stroke. So I wanted to talk to you guys about that. What is stroke? Stroke is the piston traveling downward and upward. That's a stroke. Okay, piston bore is the diameter here. And I say this because a lot of you guys are like, oh, I know that. Well, a lot of people don't know that, so that's why I'm adding that in there. So you do your bore times your stroke, and that gives you your engine's displacement. Okay, and that's how they figure that out. There's a formula online to figure out the cc's. I did on this one, and I got up to 102 cc's. So just want to make sure that the gasket is not protruding into the jug, which it's not. And I think I covered everything. I just want to go over this one more time. So I covered over what happens with the transport ports are open with the exhaust, and that's why a expansion chamber would give you more power. I talked over what bore and stroke is. We're going to put the cylinder head on. I talked to you guys about that. And I always lubricate my my studs before I put them on and torque them. Don't need a lot. Don't need a lot at all. I like a nice dry clean head gasket. Don't want to start this off on the bad foot, you know what I mean? Okay. So make sure this goes on the proper way. Just gonna slide on like so. I'll grab my bolts. This is going to be torqued down to 16 foot-pounds of torque. And I'm going to be changing out the spark plug. It's going to have a different plug in it. I am going to go with a platinum plug. A double platinum plug, a iridium plug. Those aren't going to do you no good. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the ignition system in these things doesn't have the juice to really utilize that. So keep that in mind when you're doing those. So I'm going the next step up. I'm just going to a single platinum, what do you call it there? A single platinum plug. Something that's going to be, you know, efficient, yet not over the top, because this engine's never going to be over the top. However, I am going to be able to get more power out of it by doing what I'm doing. So that makes it all worth it. So, and once again, you just go in the crosshatch pattern with them. You know, like the big letter X when you're tightening down your head gaskets. I try to wind them in evenly if you can. Sometimes you might get a burr on a stud. It's going to take a little bit to torque them down, which is fine. No harm, no foul. Wind them in together, not separate. Like I said, you're gonna torque these all down to 16 foot-pounds. So 16 foot-pounds of torque is what they're gonna be at. It's a little easier if the engine's bolted down. I'm not gonna lie to you on that. I gotta get this so I can grab it. Here we go. It's very important to torque your cylinder head. And I'm going to tell you why it's important to torque your cylinder. A lot of guys just take a wrench or ratchet and they just friggin' wind them right down. You don't want to do that. And the reason for that is because if you do that, the head could warp. You know what I mean? So I'm going to put you over here so I can get this thing done. Like this. Because I need to torque it. No, can't do it that way. Alright, now I have that all done. I'm going to do one more thing on this. Because this is a performance motor, sometimes like to just give those a little tap. This is a little old secret. Not a big tap. Just a tap, a little tap. I'm on a glass table, so that shows you how you don't want to tap them too much. Okay, that's it. That, my friends, is how you put a head on. Now, the reason why I tapped that down is to make sure that everything was seated. Sometimes if there's like a burr on the gasket, these gaskets go on kind of hard. They have like a little lift. By tapping on it, it kind of shocks them and flattens them out a little bit on those stud corners. I've already had 2 come loose on me, so that's why I decided to do that. And that's pretty much it for that. So this thing is coming along very, very well. I can't wait. This thing probably wasn't going to turn over. There's a compression it's got. Oh yeah, it's got some serious compression. Wow. Anyway, I'm going to take that plug out and just check it and make sure I got clearance on everything. Because if you don't have clearance aisle, remember clearance? If you don't have clearance, well then that's not going to work. Okay, alright. So, this step right here, turning over, you have to do. This thing is definitely going to have some high compression. So, especially where we increased the volume on it and the, what do you call it? We increased the volume, but we also want to make sure that we can crank it over. This thing's going to be like a diesel. Oh yeah, I got plenty of that thing has got some serious compression, people. Wow. There is not much room in that chamber. I'm not gonna lie to you on that. There is not much room in there at all. Holy crap. I can only imagine what that compression is gonna be like. So anyway, the head bolts that belong on this particular head are regular nuts, flat washers, and lock washers. We're using the original KE100, so it's okay for a thread on each one to be exposed. I'm okay with that. More than 2, no, I'm not. But because the nut is taller, I can let that go. If it didn't have that, then I couldn't. But this is awesome. So we have the what do you call it there? So we're going to do a platinum plug. We're going to use a Bosch Platinum. And yeah, this is awesome. This is going to be crazy, guys. Crazy. Then I'm going to have to pressure wash the entire engine after it's all done. I still have on this side right here, I got carburetor to do, oiler to do. We're going to order a brand new oiler for this thing, just because I'm not messing around with it. I've got the grommets, I got all that. We're going to do, instead of having screws, we're going to do Allen head bolts. And I'm going to show you how to, it's kind of like never season, but we're using, what do you call it there? Oh, what do you call it? Candle wax on stainless bolts. I'll show you that trick. You're going to like that one. So we're only doing those tile bolts on the covers. I might do the rest of them too. I don't know. Anything exposed might be Allen head. Whew. This is great, guys. This motor was awesome. I mean, literally, it was awesome. It ran great when I had it on. I mean, this is a 2000 or a late 1999 motor. So basically, the newest one you could possibly get for this is a 2000. So we're going to utilize every possible way to do that. We're going to this sprocket right here is new, just dirty. So we'll go with that, but we're going to retighten it because it's loose. So we'll take care of all that, zap that in, put the electronic ignition back onto it, do the side cover. We're going to do a what do you call it? There was this Kawasaki on the cover. That's going to be in the green. So I just figured I'd do the engine build first and get that, you know, get the pretty cool stuff done first, and then go from there. So we still have to mock up the exhaust this week. I got a few pipes I'm going to be cutting out to make the pipe I need, and yeah, so I got some projects going on. I definitely got some projects going on this. So this is for the KE102. We're going to be soaking the clutch discs in friction modifier, which is what the Ford uses in the rear axles, and it's going to sit with the in that for what do you call it there, 24 hours. I might even go longer. I'm going to teach you guys about that. Friction modifier, if you have a slip-in clutch, you could throw like half an ounce in it, and your oil in it sometimes helps you out. Get you a little bit of fun time with it. But these are a wet clutch system, so we want to make sure that with the wet clutch that the friction modifier is in the oil on the performance motors, because we want that clutch to grip. We don't want to slip, we want to grab, we want to be able to go with no issues. So I'm excited. This thing is coming together quite well. Like I said, we're going to do the clutch on this side, clutch and carburetor on this side of the motor, and a brand new oiler. And then, of course, we're going to drain the oil out of it and all that jazz. The shifter is in excellent condition. There's no slippage and nothing on it, so there's no point in changing it. I mean, this thing's a baby. This thing's got no mileage on it. I mean, look how pretty she is, you know? So, between all that, I'm basically showing you guys what you can and cannot get away with. And you can see how nice that, look at that. It's awesome. You know? We might do another modification to that cylinder head. We're going to probably drill some holes in it. At the bottom of the KE100 head, you'll see there's holes, coolant holes. We're probably going to put those into that motor, into that cylinder head at some point. I'm not sure exactly when or how I'm going to do it, but that head might come back off and be modified with some coolant fins. So, I don't know yet. Undecided. Well, actually, this one right here, I see why they did. Alright, no, we're not going to do that. This one actually has a wall and directs the heat downwards. See how that is? It's got a wall here. So when you're going through the airstream, the air comes through the front and then comes out the back and it hits the wall and then goes down and out. Ours goes straight back out. So I'm going to keep ours the way it is. Yeah, we got nice head flow. We're not going to put no holes in the bottom. We got beautiful head flow. So we're good there. We're good. So we got coolant fins. We're good there. We got the coolant fins going up the back of the cylinder right here, which is kind of a kind of stupid. They should have had them going straight across so the air can circulate that way, but they didn't. So I'm not going to worry about too much. Just keep an eye on it and see how the temperature goes. But there's three really big coolant fins on the back of that head, a jug, barrel, whatever you want to call it. So with the air filter in place here, the tube, yeah, it's all gonna work. It's gonna be fine. Just trying to figure out the way the coolant is, the coolant on this thing, because you want good airflow coming up over your head, and you want it around your cylinder. And then you get your 3 big giant heat sinks in the back here. So I'm cool with that. Cool with that. Worst case scenario, we put holes in the side or over here and have the coolant go that way as well. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Probably, you know what? I had that head on my KE100 and didn't have a single issue on it. So I think I'm going to leave that for now. Just going over everything we're going to be doing. Then after after the covers are gasketized, you like that word? Gasketized. After everything's gasketized, we're going to buy all new gaskets for it. And after it's gasketized, gasketized means you put a gasket on it and then your covers. And then after that, we're going to pressure wash the ever-living hell out of this motor, degrease it, get the whole thing in paint, and do all of our green detail into it. Once it's all detailed and everything's good, then we'll go from there and do the rest of it. I was actually thinking about doing the heads of the bolts, the Allen head bolts, doing them in the green as well. So, because the coolant fins are all going to be green on the sides and everything else, we're going to pressure wash. This motor's going to look like brand spanking new when I'm done with it. So, and that's pretty much, this thing is awesome. I can't even kick that over. That is going to have some serious compression. I'll be able to kick it when it's on the bike, but this thing's going to require some serious octane to run in this thing. So we're going to be making some horsepower. Anyway, well, that's it for this one here. The head's on. We talked about a little bit about cooling. This is fine. I'm going to leave it. Knock on wood. And which direction we're going to go in. So you guys got to see a little bit more about the combustion chamber. The way I'm doing it, the way I'm taking it. We're going to do a platinum plug on it. So we're going to get rid of that plug that's in there. We're probably going to, because of the heat on it, we're probably going to drop it down a heat range. And I'll explain to you all that when I go and do it. See how it works. More bikes going by, guys. More bikes. That's why I love my road. Take my bike out. I did the Andy Blacksmith Ride for Life. The organ donation. A lot of fun. Anyway, back on this. So the plug that I ran on my KE100 was the B7HS. The bike requires a B8HS. This is a cooler plug, and that's the one I went to, and that's how it burns right there. So you can see all that. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. If you guys have any questions or comments, by all means, send them my way, and please subscribe.